401 children inside the compound that the state authorities and child abuse investigators say they believe they have enough evidence to show that either some of these children have been abused or face the threat of abuse. So over the next 2 weeks, they will begin laying out the process and laying out legal documents to show to a judge here in West Texas, and they hope that this judge will rule that all of these children would qualify to be taken away from this compound and from the parents who are the members of this polygamous sect and be put into foster homes.
That's video of buses literally hauling off 401 children, 133 women from a 1,700-acre compound in Texas. It all came about from one desperate and secret phone call from an underage girl. Out to Paul Anthony with the San Angelo Standard-Times. Paul, what happened?
Well, I'll tell you, this girl called Nancy, as you know, last weekend and complained that, or at least told officials that she was 16, had an 8-month-old child, and she was married to a 50-year-old man. A couple days later, dozens of Texas Rangers, state troopers, sheriff's deputies from a number of different counties around here raided this compound about 45 miles south of here, close to El Dorado, Texas. And yesterday began shipping busloads of girls that they'd taken out over the last 4 days here to San Angelo, to the building right behind me. They said today there's 401 children, 133 women with them, a number that I can tell you surprised everybody in that room, all the reporters, and I think probably all the CPS officials as well. Nobody expected that many children to be on that ranch.
Man, Paul Anthony, I'm just looking at the video of all those little girls in their long dresses being put on those buses and taken away. You know, let's see, they look like they're 6 or 7, and about 7 or 8 years, they'd be married off to some old man and having children themselves at age 14 and 15. How did this go so long under the radar of Texas authorities, Paul?
It's been suspected for a long time. Obviously, there's been legal action taken in Arizona and Utah against members of the same sect. Obviously, the former leader, Warren Jeffs, is in jail right now because of allegations related to these kinds of activities. The Texas authorities, without any kind of evidence, just couldn't have anything to go in there. They couldn't just raid it on a whim. They finally had a complaint that they could go in on. I'm hearing a lot of credit being given to the local authorities down there, Schleicher County Sheriff David Doran, for keeping things peaceful over the last 4 years with this sect, and that allowed this whole raid to actually go down peacefully and not turn it into another Waco, which I know a lot of people here, of course, have been talking about for the last few days.
You know what? You're right. You're right about Waco. Horrible, horrible, over something very similar to this. It could have all gone wrong, Paul, in a moment. In one moment, it could have all just blown up. Out to the lines, Catherine in Colorado. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Nancy. If everyone knows that they're living there, why haven't authorities stepped in earlier?
You know, I'm confused about that. Jim Kirkwood. Jim joining us. He's a host with KTKK. It's been going on for a long time, but you have to have a reason for a search warrant.
Yes, and the long history of this group and similar groups in this area is this type of abuse, horrific treatment of women and children, third world living conditions, and the leaders of these sects becoming very wealthy and powerful.
What do you mean by third world living conditions?
The women and children literally have to make their own clothing. They have to garden.
Well, hold on, Jim Kirkwood. We made our own clothing too growing up.
Nobody does anymore, though.
Well, that wasn't that long ago, but thanks. Go ahead with the third world living conditions.
I've dealt with these people a long time. I have seen this group dumpster diving for food before the grocery stores changed their dumpsters so you couldn't access them. I mean, for vegetables, old vegetables, things like this. It's an unbelievable situation, the poverty, and then the leaders become millionaires, 100 millionaires.
You know, I don't understand how all these children, 401 children, 133 women live there, and none of the women, Susan Lipkins, ever thinks, gee, I'll take my children and leave the compound.
Yes, they've been indoctrinated. This is to them a religion. To us, it's a cult. But they believe everything that's been told to them, and they believe that their men are the ones who are in charge of them, and they're like slaves. They must follow them, and they do not trust outsiders. That's the first thing that they're taught, and that's why it will be very difficult to get the specific information from these kids. And I think that the person who reported it was a really brave person breaking the code of silence.
Back to that single phone call that brought down the biggest child protective raid in U.S. history. Paul Anthony joining us from the San Angelo Standard-Times. Tell me about the phone call. Who did the girl call?
Well, authorities are releasing that information pending, obviously, the continuing investigation, and obviously not wanting to put the girl at any risk since they haven't yet identified her and don't know whether or not they actually have her here at Fort Concho in San Angelo. What we do know about the call is that there was a call that was made on Saturday to authorities, and according to the DA's office here in Tom Green County, it was not a 911 call. The girl called twice, once on Saturday, once on Sunday, and said that, as I said before, that she was married to a 50-year-old man and had an 8-month-old baby. They did the math back. She was 15 at the time the baby was born, and in Texas, you can't even get married with parental consent at age 15.
You know what's a disturbing fact about what you just said, Paul Anthony, joining us from the San Angelo Standard-Times, Paul, is that they're not sure they've got the distressed phone call victim, the girl that called in. How many girls do they have that are married and giving birth by force at age 15?
You know, that's a good question. We do know that of the 401 girls, many of them, are pregnant. Nobody's saying how many for sure, but just observation says that. And many of these girls are the infant children of the teenage girls. So it's really just hard to tell. Also, what CPS people are saying is that one of the big problems they're having is that because of all of the intermarrying, a lot of the names are the same, identical even. The names change almost on a whim. So not only do they have a hard time picking out which teenage girl has the infant child, but what name she's using at this point.
Paul, what exactly is their religion? I know they had about a 125-foot cross on top of the compound. Very, very disturbing. But what is it exactly?
Well, about 100 years ago, they broke away from the mainstream Mormon church when the Mormon church renounced polygamy. Basically, they believe that they are following in the true footsteps of those who founded the Mormon church. Obviously, the Mormon church, disavows any connection to the FLDS, as called them, Fundamental Latter-day Saints. Basically, they believe that they're following that true Mormon faith, and everything it entails, including polygamy.
Okay, I want to go back out to the lines. Mike in Massachusetts. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Nancy. Big fan of your show. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for calling in, dear. What's your question?
I was just wondering, do you know how many men there were on the wrench?
I was just getting to that. Paul Anthony, I keep hearing about all the women, all the children. Where are the men? I don't see any of them being hauled off. And who's the leader of this thing? Have they arrested him?
They have not arrested him. The leader at the ranch is believed to be Merrill Jessup. He's actually filed, his attorneys on his behalf have filed here a motion to quash the search warrants that are being served at the ranch as we speak. He has not been arrested. There's only been one arrest at the ranch, and they're not releasing the name, but they don't believe it's anybody important there. There is an unknown number of men there. Nobody really knows how many people are on the compound. It's amazing. Most of the estimates had fewer people at the compound than they've actually removed so far.
To Lori Allen, producer of Banking on Heaven. Lori, how can you have a 1,700-acre compound, this many women and children, where girls are being statutorily raped and forcing to be married and giving birth as teens, and think you can get away with it?
Nancy, what we're seeing today is the product of 100 years of gross negligence in the state of Utah and Arizona, where we could coat the highways with the sweat and blood and tears of these polygamists that are all over the Southwest. And Texas today, thank God for Texas, that they have the cojones to get up there with one complaint and move in on those corrupt people that are men that are abusing women and children. When Utah